Daily news and analysis. We keep you informed and inspired.
This is World Today.
Hello and welcome to World Today. I'm Ding Hen in Beijing. Coming up, leader of the Kuomingtang Party will pay a visit to the Chinese mainland in April. Pakistan hosts foreign nation bid to encourage the United States and Iran towards diplomacy. China's industrial profits accelerated at the start of 2026. And World Trade Organization trade talks ended with no deal to extend e-commerce tariff ban. To listen to this episode again or to catch up on our previous episodes, you can download our podcast by searching World Today. First up, the Communist Party of China Central Committee and General Secretary Xi Jinping have invited chairperson of the Chinese Kuomingtang Party to pay a visit to the Chinese mainland next month. A CPC official says Cheng Li-wun has expressed the desire to visit the Chinese mainland multiple times since she took office in November. Song Tao, head of the Taiwan Work Office of the CPC Central Committee, says Chen and her delegation will visit Jiangsu, Shanghai, and Beijing from April the 7th to the 12th. And on her part, Cheng Li-wun has accepted the Chinese mainland's invitation, expressing her hope that both parties will work together to promote the peaceful development of cross-Strait ties. She also called for enhancing exchange and cooperation, contributing to peace in the Taiwan Strait, and improving the well-being of the people. So for more, joining us now on the line is Dr. Xiao Yuqing, Director of the Institute for Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Macau Studies with the Shanghai Institute for International Studies. So thank you very much for joining us today, Dr. Xiao Yuqing. First of all, why do you think Cheng Li-wun has expressed the desire to visit the Chinese mainland multiple times since she took office? And what expectations should we have for her upcoming trip?
I think as the new chairwoman of KMT, Cheng Li-wun has several priorities to strengthen her position and also to strengthen the party's position in the Taiwan domestic politics. And the first thing is under her leadership, the KMT should be tough enough to be the opposition party in Taiwan, because right now the DPP authorities' policy, not only towards the mainland, but also the international relations and also its well-being policy, the economic policies, the social welfare policies on the island have been criticized by a lot of Taiwan people. So KMT as the major opposition party, I think Cheng Li-wun has her own view and idea about how to be a strong and tough opposition party. And also, I think she has her own view regarding the future direction of KMT and also KMT's policy towards the Chinese mainland and also the cross-strait relations. So that's why she has repeatedly said that she would like to visit the Chinese mainland and try to improve the cross-strait relations. And I think her visit to the Chinese mainland at least can promote the people-to-people exchanges between the two sides across the strait, because the KMT recognized the 1992 consensus, right? So it's easy for the two sides, the KMT, to lead the people-to-people exchanges between the two sides. And also the previous KMT and the CPC forum actually has already focused on those functional issues between the two sides, like AI development, like clean energy, like tourism, all those issues. So I think under the leadership of KMT, actually the two sides can have functional cooperation and coordination on those issues.
It's important that you talk about the 1992 consensus. So What do you think is the key to the CPC and the KMT working together to promote the peaceful development of cross-strait ties?
I think there are at least two things. First thing is just like you said, that the political basis, the political foundation for CPC KMT's cooperation, which is the 1992 consensus, is the most important thing here. And the second is the unification, the unified KMT. I think is also important for KMT to push the cooperation with CPC, because right now we have, at least I have sensed, there are some different views within KMT regarding its relationship with the Chinese mainland and also KMT's cooperation with CPC. So I think whether under Cheng Li-wun's leadership, this kind of different forces within KMT can got certain consensus regarding its relationship with CPC, I think is also very important.
The announcement of Cheng Li-wun's trip to the Chinese mainland comes at a time when Taiwan's Lai Ching-te and his DPP authorities are trying to get the island's regional legislative body to approve an extra $40 billion defense spending. The KMT is now holding majority in the legislature. So what do we know about the stance of the KMT on this particular issue?
I think Cheng Li-wun has been very clear that she thinks that the peaceful cross-strait relations does not depend on the so-called arms sales from the United States. But I think that within the legislative body, those KMT members, they have different views so far. Some support kind of a bigger spending, defense spending, and some support kind of a smaller spending. So there are different versions. Right now, I think, but overall, I think KMT's view is that the DPP, the version that DPP has been pushing is too big, and it will cost a lot. It will have a lot of negative economic cost on the Taiwanese society and would have very negative impact on the people's daily lives. So I think right now the challenge for Cheng Li-wun is whether she can show her strong leadership to have a unified KMT to play a strong role in the legislative body.
That's why you said earlier that KMT unity, or in terms of sending a unified message to the outside world, is very, very important. So the Chinese mainland has made it quite clear that over the next 5 years, during the Chinese mainland's 15th five-year plan, it will, on one hand, promote cooperation and exchanges with Taiwan, while on the other hand, firmly crack down upon Taiwan independence separatist forces and oppose external interference on the Taiwan question. Do you believe the efforts in those two directions that I have mentioned will go hand in hand with each other smoothly? And what role or what roles can the KMT play in this process?
I think definitely the two hands that you mentioned for the Chinese mainland, the 15th five-year plan, we will continue this policy. And for the past several years, actually, the Chinese mainland have already adopted this policy. And so far, I think it's very effective. For example, on the anti-Taiwan independence, counter-Taiwan independence, and also the extra interference side of the policy, our PLA's military exercises and actions in the Taiwan Strait have already played a very strong role in the deterrence, in deterring those forces, and also the integrated development between the two sides across the strait. The policy have already pushed improved coordination and cooperation and also exchanges between the two societies, between the two sides across the strait. So I think this, so far we have already seen the policy has been successful, and so there's no reason that we would not to continue this policy. So in this process, I think KMT can play a very important role. First of all, the KMT should strengthen its position on adhering to the 1992 consensus, because there are some people within the KMT, their view is that these days the 92 consensus is irrelevant and it's not in the interest of KMT. So let's forget about that. I think this kind of view is very wrong. So this is the most important thing and the most important role that KMT can play. And secondly, just like I said previously, on all those functional issues, I think that KMT, they has a lot of talents, like economic field, like energy field, like engineering field. A lot of talents are within KMT and also within the blue camp. So KMT can play the leading role to coordinate these functional issues cooperation with the Chinese mainland.
If U.S. President Donald Trump really visits China later this year, will Taiwan be a key talking point, will be a key issue for discussion between China and the United States?
Definitely. If President Trump will visit Beijing in the mid of May or any time later, I think for sure the Chinese government and our president will raise the Taiwan question on the table, and we will reiterate our policy towards towards Taiwan, and also the One China principle, and would warn the U.S. side, the Trump administration, to be very cautious on its policy. Of course, first of all, it should adhere to the One China policy. And at the same time, I think the U.S. side should be very cautious on the arms sales to Taiwan, and also the interference into the domestic politics in Taiwan.
Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Xiao Yuqing, Director of the Institute for Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Macau Studies, Shanghai Institute for International Studies. Coming up, Pakistan hosts foreign nation bid to encourage the U.S. and Iran towards diplomacy. This is World Today. Stay tuned.
Welcome. I am Chu Zhang, Deputy Director at the Center for Middle Eastern Studies at Fudan University. On the World Today program, we will dive beyond the headlines to uncover the stories, trends, and impacts that connect states across the globe. Join me on World Today.
Hello, my name is Alessandro Golombieski Teixeira. I'm a professor of public policy and management at Tsinghua University in Beijing. I am a great listener of The World Today. In my opinion, The World Today is one of the best China radio programs. In The World Today, we can get the best news and analysis in what is happening now in the world. So please come to join us.
You're listening to World Today. I'm Ding Hen in Beijing. Pakistan says it's ready to facilitate peace talks between the United States and Iran in the coming days. Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar made the announcement following a meeting with his counterparts from Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt in Islamabad. The four nations have agreed to form a joint ministerial-level committee to push for a negotiated settlement. Meanwhile, Iran has agreed to let 20 additional Pakistani ships pass through the Strait of Hormuz, a step that Dar called a meaningful gesture towards peace. For more on this, my colleague Xu Yawen spoke with Dr. Wen Jing, research fellow with the Center for International Security and Strategy at Tsinghua University.
Dr. Wen,
Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar has said that both the U.S. and Iran have expressed confidence in Pakistan's mediation. What does this confidence mean for the prospects of direct U.S.-Iran talks in Islamabad in the coming days?
Absolutely. As we all know, Pakistan right now is acting as the mediator. Its influence or its confidence or have this mediation progress is very important. And the second thing I want to say right now, the war has continued or last more than 4 weeks. So not only US, but also Iran, I think they are all thinking to have a deal. From US side, I think right now he has faced many pressure, not only from the domestic issues, but also from the oil, the economy pressure. So US has the desire to get a deal. And for Iran, I think Iran also hope to get a deal with the US because, as we all know, right now Iran has many economic inflation in the country. So they cannot just have this war for a very, very long time. So I think right now both sides have thinking to get a deal.
We know over the weekend, Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia held a four-nation foreign ministers meeting in Islamabad and agreed to form a committee to negotiate a settlement. So how can this committee help bridge the gap between the conflicting ceasefire demands of the U.S. and Iran, given that key parties like the U.S. and Israel are not participating?
Yes, I think for normal people, for our understanding, maybe all participants, the war participants should attend this conference. But, in Middle East, it's very special, like the mediation which U.S. did during the Gaza conflict. We can see that Israel and Palestine, both sides, do not attend the meeting as well. But I still have some confidence on these 4 countries' foreign ministers meeting. Why? Because I think these 4 countries really make sense. Like for Pakistan, I think most audience will think, why is Pakistan making this mediation? Pakistan, actually, he is not a regional country. It's not a Middle East country, but do you know Pakistan has a military deal with Saudi Arabia last year? And also Pakistan has a good relationship with Iran as well. And also Turkey is a very important country, a player in the region. And Egypt is a traditional Arab leader country. So I think Egypt really can make some sense. And also Saudi Arabia, we can see Saudi Arabia is very powerful. Not only in economy, but also in Islamic world. So I think these 4 countries are really very important countries. So the discussion or the meeting or the mediation efforts will make sense.
We know the U.S. has sent a 15-point ceasefire proposal to Iran via Pakistan, which Tehran has rejected as extreme and unreasonable. In the meantime, Iranian parliament speaker accused the U.S. of sending mixed signals. It says that the U.S. publicly signaling openness to talks, while secretly planning a ground invasion with the 15-point ceasefire proposal as an attempt to force Iran's surrender. So is the U.S. truly serious about negotiations in Islamabad, or is this diplomatic outreach a cover for preparing a ground military operation? What's your take?
I think for my understanding, U.S. want to get a deal, but for other side, it has not so much, just trying to know the bottom of Iran. Just you mentioned that U.S. just put up several goals, right? Like the nuclear facilities and also the missile facilities, and also the control of the Strait of Hormuz. I think for Iran, these sentiments are very hard to be accepted by Iran. And as we all know, the war has entered the 5th week. And Iran has known very clearly that he has a very strong control on the Strait of Hormuz. So he really have some, he can really play a very important role in this war. So I think for Iran, he will not accept these principles which put up by US. But I still think these two sides are having a strategic arguing. They want to know the bottom line of the other side. So it's still is a bargaining right now, I think.
I mean, if the US really wants to have a deal with Iran, why is sending more troops to the Middle East?
I really want to say it's a tactical method. It's a tactical method. He wants to have some pressure on Iran, and they think that if they have more troops and more weapons which delivered to this region, Iran will feel that they are very dangerous. So I think US is still using the carrot, the carrot 胡萝卜大棒.
You mean a policy of stick and carrot?
Yes, this method to let Iran to just to say yes, we want to have a deal with you. So maybe we can sit together and to discuss this issue. So I think US is just putting these two players in a very stressful situation to let Iran to accept his principles or to accept his ways to end this war.
Dr. Wun, let's zoom into another important issue here, the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has agreed to allow 20 more ships under the Pakistani flag to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Is this a goodwill gesture toward Pakistan's mediation efforts or a technical move amid ongoing tensions? And also, does this mean that we're going to see more ships will be allowed to pass through the Hormuz Strait in the coming days as long as they're from, according to Iran, non-hostile nations?
I just want to have one point is that the key to closing the strait doesn't lie in whether Iran has before US is trying its way to destroy Iranian's navy, right? But I do not think this is a good way to destroy the ability of Iran's ability to protect, to control the strait. Because right now, Iran has ability to sustain attacks and create a high-risk environment in the Straits of Hormuz. So under the customs of this continuous military conflicts, I think Iran's regular levy is damaged, but we can see the commercial shipping still face very strong security risks, right? So I think right now this means that controlling the strait is more than the ability to manage risk rather than the traditional maritime superiority. I mean, right now Iran has a very good control of the strait. So Iran is rarely can decide the way ahead. So this is my take.
And lastly, Doctor, we know Israel has continued its military operations against Iran and distanced itself from US-led peace talks. In your view, how is Israel's stance impacting Pakistan's mediation efforts and the broader regional peace process?
I think from my understanding, why Israel has a different reaction compared with the US, the reason is that Israel has a very different purpose, or we see different result. I mean, the focus is different from US. For US, the main idea or main aim to start this war is to strike the missiles facility and the nuclear facilities in Iran. US do not want Iran have the nuclear weapon. This is the first one. And secondly, the region change. So this is the main purpose of US. But do you know, for Israel, they have some different purpose. The main concern for Israel is that they think that Iran has a proxy in the region. They have Houthis, they have Lebanon, they have the many players in the region. So Israel want to start this war to get Iran lost this kind of proxy players in the region. So we can see right now Israel is acting different from US. And I think Israel want to last this war as long as possible because he wants Iran will be totally not how to say, undermined during this war. So Israel is acting different from US. This is my take.
That was Dr. Wen Jing, Research Fellow of the Center for International Security and Strategy with Tsinghua University, talking with my colleague Xu Yawen. You're listening to World Today. I'm Ding Han in Beijing. We'll be back after a very short break. You're back with World Today. I'm Ding Han in Beijing. China's industrial sector is off to a strong start this year, signaling renewed momentum in the broader economy. Profits at major industrial firms rose by 15.2% year-on-year in the first 2 months, a sharp acceleration from the 0.6% growth recorded for the whole of last year. The rebound is being led by key growth engines. Profits in equipment manufacturing climbed by around 24%, while high-tech manufacturing surged by impressive 59%. China's economy started this year on a firm footing with a surge in imports and exports and a rebound in retail sales and investment. So for more on this, my colleague Zhao Yang spoke with Dr. Zhou Mi, Senior Research Fellow with Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation.
Dr. Zhou Mi, thank you very much for joining us. First of all, what is really driving the sharp rise in industrial profits in the first 2 months, and how sustainable is this growth momentum for the rest of the year?
Yeah, in my understanding, that the companies, when they are going to have the profits, they are decided by the differences between the cost and also the revenues. So for the companies in China, they benefit from a sharp rise in the first 2 months of this year are depending on the two sides. First of all, is that they are able to sell more things. I think that is reflecting that the market is getting stronger. The companies or consumers, they are able or they want to buy more things, so they have a pretty some of their sales much more than they can expect for the last year. Well, the second is about many Chinese companies, especially the enterprises in the manufacturing, they really want to introduce more technology or innovation elements in the sales. So they are able to have a better value added for the sales. And if you combine these two things of the sales itself and also the value added of these sales, they can have a better profit. If you look at the sustainability, I think that in my understanding that the sustainability of these profits can be expected in this year. And that is because that China's consumption market is getting stronger, and we are also benefiting from the interactions with our trading partners. So in this regard, the companies can benefit from the sales in the domestic market while also in the foreign markets.
And with equipment manufacturing and high-tech manufacturing emerging as key growth drivers, what does this reveal about the evolving structure of China's economy? And how is China's expanding footprint in these industries reshaping the global supply chain?
Well, China is definitely one of the traditional manufacturers in the world who are able to have a lot of products to the foreign market. But I think that in the recent years, China's solution has been improved. So we are not just provide some of these products like the final products. We are able to provide more equipment. And these equipments can be integrated in the supply chains, the global supply chains and industrial chains. And these equipments can be used for supporting other countries' industrializations or ability to supply with sustainable supply in these global supply chains. So I think that these functions are really playing more and more important, like for the new energy vehicles of some of the machineries for dealing with the agricultural products. So China's footprint of these equipment are really beneficiary for our trading partners. They are able to deal with their products in a more efficient way. And in this way, they are able to improve their status in the global value chains. So I would say the performance of the China's equipment and the high-tech manufacturing are really supporting the our trading partners to reach their goals.
And also take a look at other economic data. Retail sales grew by 2.8% in the first 2 months. So what does this 2.8% increase mean for China's economy, and what is driving this growth?
Well, maybe the 2.8 is not that much compared with industrial output or export, but it is not that easy because we know that China's consumption is one of our very potential areas, but hasn't been, so strong like the investment and export. I think that is, a reflection also about the efforts of the government together with enterprises. For the first 2 months, we are, in the vacations of the Spring Festival, and also, a lot of input are used to encourage the consumption. The retails, if we are able to make it stable and even grow faster, we are able to try to have a better and more strong development momentum. So the domestic consumption is one of our priorities, like you can find from the government report this year. And I would say that it is always what we want to strengthen in the next 5 years. So the people are able to buy more things, but the problem is that whether we can provide them with enough good things and also trying to make this mechanism more sustainable by have a better life cycle of those products and services.
And speaking of consumption behavior, what are some of the new consumption trends do you find?
The first trend I noticed that is about the services consumptions. Many people are entering the cinemas to watch films, and some of them are going to other cities for the tourism, and they also enjoyed many digital services to do with some of the entertainment methods like the songs and different things. Well, another one of the service consumption is about AI. Many people are really trying to use these AI applications. They pay them and they get some of this outcome of this the artificial intelligence models. So this is one factor, and another one I think that there are more consumption to do with some of this knowledge. So the people are going to buy more products to do with the artificial intelligence, some of this internet related equipment. So I think that the people are really enjoying that, and the companies of the robots, they're really providing many choices. So these choices are attracting some families to buy it, to try it. Maybe it's not so popular, but I think that is really giving some very good basis for the companies to have a better development.
And China has also rolled out a green consumption action plan. So tell us more details about that. Is it mainly about cutting emissions, or are they also about boosting consumption?
I think that's both. For the green development is one of our priorities, like you can find from China's strategy. And I think that new development strategies also cover the green aspects. For us, we want to fulfill our commitments to global climate change action. I think that mean that we have to do more to reduce carbon emissions in the daily lives, like transportations, or even the ways of producing the products. So this is definitely what we really want to encourage, people to use more products which has less carbon emission. But at the second time, I think that we need to transfer from the traditional ways into a better way, into a new way, and that will create our additional market for the suppliers. So if we are able to encourage the people to use the products with a better characteristic about the green consumption, I think that definitely will beneficially for the consumption itself. So no matter from the demand side or the supply side, if we are able to transfer people's habits or intentions of using the products to a greener one, I think that is definitely good for all of the related stakeholders.
Dr. Zhou Mi, Senior Research Fellow with Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation, speaking with my colleague Zhao Yang. You're listening to World Today. We'll be back. You're back with World Today. I'm Ding Hen in Beijing. A new report has ranked China at the 9th spot in the world in terms of innovation capability. China has scored 67.2 points in the National Innovation Index Report 2025, issued by the Chinese Academy of Science and Technology for Development. It marks improvement from the country's 10th place position in the same ranking a year earlier. The top 3 countries in this year's ranking are the United States, Switzerland, and Sweden. The report says China's innovation capabilities are close to that of developed countries with a per capita GDP of $50,000. So for more, joining us now on the line is Dr. Yao Shujie, Chang Kong Professor of Economics with Chongqing University. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, you're welcome.
So in this particular ranking, China was actually at the 20th place back in 2012. Now China is basically the only, middle income economy that has made entry into the global top 10. Is China's ranking, including China's improvement in the ranking over the years, in line with your general perception about what's going on?
Yes, indeed. China has put in a lot of investment into R&D, research and development, and also articulating a very sophisticated national and regional system for research and development. In particular, the 0 to 1 breakthrough in terms of artificial intelligence, digital economy, and also high-level manufacturing. Addition to that, China have the most sophisticated industrial system, which provide a very fertile soil for the application of all the new technology and technological transfer from the laboratory to the actual industrial production system. And because China is a big country, it has not only the investment, but also there's a huge pool of talents. There are 2 major advantages of the Chinese research and development sector. The major advantage is the scope of technological innovation and application. And the second advantage is the intensive catch-on process of national policy from the research institution, national research system of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, in all part of the country. They have intensified the innovation to improve the technological and economic development throughout the country, so that China could win the international competitive advantage, not only in terms of international trade, but in terms of domestic, strong economic circulation and the general improvement of people's livelihood. Also have a very strong push force in driving the research and technology into a very higher level. And the progress of, almost every year China move 1 position, or every other year China move up 1 position, is highly impressive. And this impressiveness of the technological innovation is not only coming from the quantity of investment, but also the quality or the efficiency of investment organization in the country.
Okay. Now, in terms of sub-indicators, the report says China is actually doing very, very well in a globally leading position in the scale of STEM education, the number of scientists with high citation rates, the number of top-ranking universities, as well as, say, corporate level innovation, like the number of faster growing startups, like especially unicorns. Why do you think this is the case, Professor?
Yes, as I say, it is a highly comprehensive and concerted effort for the national and regional government. China have 3 major forces of driving technological progress. The first major force is the country, the national government. The second force is the research innovation institutions, such as the university, which produce more and more high-level publication in the STEM area. And the third area is the education. China probably have the highest number of education in terms of engineering, in terms of all the major STEM subjects.
Yeah.
This provide a very good talent pool for driving research and innovation throughout not only the national multinational company, but also the research-oriented university and institutions.
But in the meantime, when we talk about the efficiency of turning highly cited papers into commercial results and labor productivity in terms of in the field of high-tech manufacturing and finance for those fast-growing tech startups, Professor, the report says there is still a huge room for China to make some further improvement. In some of the indexes, sub-indexes, China's ranking is at 40s something globally. What is your take on this?
Yes, I mean, as I say, China is a big country, and there's an unbalanced development in different sectors. But there's also unbalanced development in different scientific innovation indices. For example, like the transformation from publication from the laboratory to the real industrial production system. Because China is moving so fast, so some of the research and innovation, knowledge or patents, they take some time to penetrate it into the real industrial sector. So it's not a very surprise shortage or shortcoming of the system. But you can turn this thing into a positive, aspect, because there are still huge scope for the Chinese system to apply this kinds of available technology and know-how to the industrial and agricultural and service sector. And this, once this knowledge is transferred, then there will be commercial utilization of these patents and also technology. And then you can generate profit, and the profit can plow back into the basic research. And this is concept of, circulation in the scientific circle that the national government and regional government is about to promote. Of course, there are lots of different strategies of how to improve this kinds of technological innovation, efficiency, and application to the real industry.
Now, actually, the United States has topped this particular ranking since the year 2013. R&D spending in North America accounts for over 40% of the global total, according to this report. So, do you think, Professor Yao, politically speaking, Washington should actually be less worried and less anxious about China in the realm of tech innovation?
I don't think the U.S. could take a very relaxed attitude towards China. I think the U.S. is certainly seeing China as a major competitor, not only in terms of the economic strength, but also in the technological and innovation strength. And China is emerging so powerfully, and the investment and also the talents is certainly a major challenges for the United States. But I hope that these kinds of challenges could become a mutual, beneficial competition and also cooperation.
Thank you very much for joining us. Yao Shujian, Chang Kong Professor of Economics with Chongqing University. Coming up, World Trade Organization talks ended with no deal to extend e-commerce tariff ban. This is World Today. Stay tuned.
Hello, I am Dr. Digby James Wren, a political analyst and international relations scholar specializing in China area studies. World Today offers unmatched in-depth perspectives on China's politics, economics, business, technology and society. World Today's team of reporters and contributors provides valuable information from all of the world's major economies. I hope you can join me on World Today for the very best insights and news from China, on China, and help to build a better understanding of China's role in the world today.
You are listening to World Today. I'm Ding Hen in Beijing. World Trade Organization members have concluded their meeting in Cameroon without a deal to extend a moratorium on e-commerce duties. The talks regarding the extension will continue in Geneva as the U.S. and Brazil remain deadlocked over this issue. The talks held in Cameroon made progress on drafting a plan for broader reforms of this multilateral trading organization, but agreements are still pending. So joining us now on the line is Professor Liu Baochen from the University of International Business and Economics. Thank you very much for joining us, Professor.
Hi, thank you.
So first of all, why do you think the Brazilian side blocked a bid by the United States and some other countries to secure an extension to a moratorium on e-commerce duties? I guess we are talking about duties or tariffs on some transaction on e-commerce, such as, say, digital downloads, etc. What could be the concern on the part of the Brazilian side?
I think to give our listeners a background is that since 1998, under the WTO arrangement, members have already agreed not to impose custom tariffs on electronic transformation, as you mentioned, software downloads, streaming, digital content, etc. But the moratorium was designed as a temporary renewable commitment. So every extension is effectively a new political decision, not a automatic continuation. So therefore, any member could have the legitimate right to block such sort of extension. The consideration on the Brazil side reflects a broader concern among many other developing economies about the policy space and fiscal sovereignty with regard to the regulation of e-commerce. So first, the moratorium, it is beneficial for digital trade at large, but it does not really mean that every country can really benefit, at least in proportion to that. So for countries like Brazil, especially during the digitization process, they may turn out to be having less space if they really commit to the continuation of such a moratorium. And because this is dominated by more advanced economies. For example, in the United States, the Silicon Valley, commands a large tech firms that can really enjoy far more privilege for the zero tariff type of arrangement. So they may feel a sense of deprivation of, in their voice and also in their economic benefit.
I guess for the World Trade Organization, getting a deal on this e-commerce moratorium is widely seen as key to securing political support from Washington. So are you optimistic that Brazil and the United States could ultimately reach some sort of deal on this issue?
Well, this is a continuation of discussion. For now, any type of reform for the WTO with 164 members, it's very difficult, particularly for big economies like the United States and Brazil. And I would broadly say it's still optimistic, but with caution. It cannot really immediately they go for automatic renew, but there could be certain type of negotiation because the U.S. prioritizes certainty and continuity for global digital trade, while Brazil is seeking more flexibility and, more importantly, fairness. So there could be some sort of reconciliation, and compromise can really emerge in the format of time-bound extension rather than an indefinite arrangement. And it could be, a negotiation on a portion of digital taxation, on the development support, or, the U.S. can really offer some the sort of aid in capacity building. So in other words, the progress is likely if the discussion shifts from a binary type of extension to a package deal that may address the development concern by the Brazil side.
with regard to the broader reforms of the World Trade Organization, according to diplomats and some politicians, a new draft of reform roadmap providing a timeline for progress and setting out the key issues to address was actually very much close to being agreed during the talks held in Cameroon. And those key issues include improving decision-making in a consensus-based system, and trade benefits more broadly being extended to developing countries. How does the prospect of these reform efforts look like to you, Professor?
Well, these are in principle are highly acceptable by all members because, by making the system faster and fit for the new development, particularly in the digital era. And now every country is facing a painstaking picture where the fragmentation of global economy can really damage the robustness of international exchange in goods and services. But the most outstanding issue is how to determine and define fairness, because the more developing countries really want to have more of the sovereignty and also their independent decision making, and so that they will feel not really being extracted out of a consensus type of a global rule. But those more advanced economies, they really require more of the efficiency. So, to reach a consensus is really a very time-consuming process. But the direction is really very clear. And now again, what type of compromise can be made to really to harness this type of diverging expectations about fairness, flexibility, and also the affordable obligations by those members. So the roadmap is an important step, but the real test will be whether the members can really translate into concrete and enforceable outcome, and particularly with regard to the pallet type of operation, which has been paralyzed for the last more than 7 years. So how to restore that and provide efficient and fair result. So that's something that remain to be seen and to be negotiated, with more constructive approach.
Professor, we still have about half a minute before we need to let you go. So briefly, the talks this time in Cameroon were largely seen as a test for the WTO's relevance after a year of trade turmoil and the ongoing disruption due to the ongoing war in the Middle East. So overall, how would you make of the result of this test?
I think despite of all the fragmentation and geopolitical tensions going on, the mechanism or dynamics for global collaboration are still there and also getting stronger. So therefore, members, whether they are able to see a larger picture and long-term development by engaging with each other on a rule-based collaboration. So this is quite a test. Whether WTO reform can really move forward, especially in certain sectors.
Thank you very much for joining us. Professor Liu Baochen joining us from the University of International Business and Economics. That's all the time for this edition of World Today. I'm Ding Han in Beijing. Thank you so much for listening. Bye for now.